Alrighty guys, so today we're going to be going over the instructions for the magnesium oxide lab. I'm going to be going over the lab safety rules that are specific to this lab, some of the procedures that you'll need to know, and the equipment that you'll be using. Let's get into it. So the superstar for this lab is going to be this right here. It's going to be a piece of solid magnesium metal. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be taking this solid magnesium and reacting it with oxygen gas. When this magnesium metal is heated, it's going to react with the O2 in the air to produce solid magnesium oxide. Okay, we're going to be heating up this magnesium by putting it in this metal cup looking thing that we have here. This is called a crucible. So what we're going to do is we're going to put the magnesium inside the crucible, and we're going to be using this Bunsen burner right here in order to heat up the crucible and the magnesium inside until it hits about 500 to 600 degrees Fahrenheit. When the magnesium is sufficiently heated, it's going to react with the oxygen gas in the air to produce a white powder, which is going to be magnesium oxide. So I know that right now it's just a strip of metal, and when you start the lab, you're going to put the strip of metal inside of the crucible, but when you heat it, at the end, there's going to be a white powder inside the crucible. Okay, and that's going to be the purpose of this lab. The purpose of this lab is to produce magnesium oxide using a piece of magnesium metal and the oxygen in the air around us. Now let's go over the lab safety rules that are more specific to this lab. We're using a Bunsen burner, as you guys can see, and just like with any Bunsen burner lab, we want to exercise caution when we're working with fire and heated objects. And so just make sure that you're aware of where the fire is, make sure you're not goofing around, make sure you're not bumping into people, make sure the Bunsen burner is a sufficient distance away from the edge of the table. We don't want any accidents with the fire. One other important thing that you want to keep in mind is that we're going to be heating this crucible using the fire from the Bunsen burner. And so after we heat it, it's going to get really, really hot. I know that kind of sounds obvious and it shouldn't be something that I have to mention, but a lot of people forget that when they heat up the crucible, it gets really hot. And so you don't want to touch it right away. Instead, what you're going to be doing is you're going to be using tongs to move hot objects. So in this lab, the first important thing is to exercise caution when using the Bunsen burner and heated objects. And the second thing that you want to keep in mind is that you are going to be moving the crucible and anything that's heated using these tongs. That's going to include the crucible, and that's going to include this ring that you have right here. In order to move the ring, what you're going to do is you're going to grab the end of the ring with tongs, you're going to turn it to loosen it, and that's how you'll be adjusting the position of the ring and the crucible. Okay, make sure you guys are using tongs in order to move any heated objects. The third thing that you want to keep in mind is going to be lab safety equipment. So like you guys can see, I am wearing goggles, my hair is pushed back, you could tie it back as well, and my sleeves are rolled up. You want to keep those things in mind as you guys are doing this lab. Okay, so let's review. So the first thing that you want to keep in mind for this lab is to exercise caution when working with fire and with heated objects. The second thing that you want to keep in mind is that we are going to be using tongs in order to move any heated objects. What you're going to be doing is you're going to be using the tongs to move the crucible, and you're going to be using the tongs to move the ring for the ring stand. And then the third thing that you want to do is wear safety equipment, so make sure you're wearing goggles, make sure your hair is tied back or pushed back, and make sure your sleeves are rolled up. Alright, let me give you some tips that'll help you on this lab today. Now, we talked about last time that when we want the flame to get as hot as possible, we want to use the collar on the Bunsen burner in order to create that blue jet of flame. So right now I don't have the collar open, but if I open the collar, you should see that a blue jet is formed inside the flame. Now we said last time that the hottest part of the fire is the tip of that blue jet. And so what you want to do in this lab, in order to heat up the magnesium as quickly and effectively as possible, is you're going to take your tongs to move the crucible containing the magnesium on top of this clay triangle. And you just want to sit it on top of there. Now you guys can see that the bottom of the crucible right now is not at the tip of the fire, but it's not close to the blue jet. We want the bottom of the crucible to be touching that blue jet. And so what you're going to do is you're going to use your tongs, and you're going to use your other hand to unscrew it, and you're going to move the crucible down until the bottom of the crucible is touching the tip of the blue jet. And this is how you're going to heat up your magnesium to the temperature that you need to get it to. You're going to be using the tongs to put the crucible on the clay triangle, and then what you're going to do is you're going to grab the other end, you're going to grab one end of the ring, you're going to grab one end of the other ring, and then you're going to use that to adjust the height of the circle. Alright, so let's look at that from another angle. Again, you can see that the bottom of the crucible is not touching the tip of that blue jet. And so what we're going to do is we're going to use our tongs to grab one end of the ring and use our other hand to turn the ring so that we can lower the crucible so that the tip of the blue jet is touching the bottom of the crucible. So as you can see, the bottom of the crucible is touching the tip of the blue jet. I guess I could lower it a little bit. And this is what's going to allow us to heat up the crucible and the magnesium metal inside as quickly and as efficiently as possible. Alrighty guys, so hopefully that was helpful in getting you prepared for this lab. Just make sure that you guys are following all the lab safety rules. You're going to need to complete your pre-lab, get it checked by me before you guys can start the lab. And afterwards, you guys can get the procedures for the lab, and then you'll have a post-lab activity as well. So just make sure that you're using your time wisely. Good luck guys, and let me know if you have any questions. That's what you should see at the end of the lab.